Oh, Christine, welcome, and Ben, welcome.
Thank you very much. You're on mute there, Christine.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Thanks so much for coming. Actually, Kevin's on his way to my house right now. I'm not sure if you guys know about the Canadian Challenge dog race that's happening. Kevin and another student are entering their dogs in the race that starts on Thursday. So he's on his way here from Minnesota, and there's places that are out of service area. So he messaged me and he asked me if I would come on, and I messaged Ben and asked him if he would come and support Cree language, introduction to Cree language. Okay, go ahead, Ben.
What are we doing tonight? I'd actually just found out about this meeting about 20 minutes ago. So
I know.
what would you guys like to do? What's the best way I can help you guys?
Higi mitsun na sase.
Oopsies. Go.
Oh. Okay, well, I guess I wanted to, Kevin asked me to talk to you about the Indigenous Language Certificate program that he teaches in University of Saskatchewan. And that's where it is that I received a degree with him in 2018. And it focused a lot on different language strategies. And right, so, and I use some of those when I'm teaching at the school. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, Ben, and I thought that you'd be really good to join in and talk about some different language strategies. I've met Ben quite a few years ago with Cree language camps that we did not only here, but also in other locations. So those were designed to be, theoretically, they were supposed to be language immersion camps, although a lot of us used English, but those are the best, where it is that you have yourself in an immersion experience. And Ben and I also have taken French as a second language in an immersion experience. So that would be the #1 strategy that would be applicable for me anyway. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, so do you want me to describe some of the techniques I use, or what are we looking for here? Or, I mean, we've got lots of people here, so is there anything particular I can clarify? I guess I should kind of explain. I come from language learning. I learn, there's no one where I live that speaks the language. So I come from an environment where I don't have anybody to teach me. So everything that I do is generally synthesized. So if I'm trying to create an immersion environment, I will, play audio while I'm doing something in my life, or every day when I drive to town, I try and put it on the stereo in my car, that sort of thing. So I can give you ideas like that, if that's what people are looking at. Or I have a fairly good handle on some of the grammatical aspects of the language. If people are interested in that, we can go down that road. Or if people just want, some simple phrases to kind of get going, get the ball rolling, we can go that route too. Or along that same line, I know when I started, sometimes finding the right resources was hard. I'm fairly familiar with, I'm not going to say all, but many of the publications out there. So if people are looking for like a specific, like, oh, I want to read a lot about the unspecified actor, well, I can point you to chapter 28 in Jean's book, right? Something like that. So it kind of depends. Again, like I'm not really prepped for this because I didn't really even know this meeting existed, but anything I can help you guys with, just let me know the best way. Okay, I've got grammar sounds fun. Practicing phrases sounds fun.
Ben, one thing that Oris had reminded in the chat is that last week when we left, Kevin was going to focus on how we would introduce ourselves and where we are from. So that was a direction that he had pointed us all in last week, if that could be helpful.
Okay. Is he going to join the meeting later tonight?
Okay, so the thing is, he is leaving. He left service area already, and when he gets to Bow Valley, he'll probably have maybe 20 minutes of service, and then he'll lose service again until he gets to the highway, where he'll make a left to head north to Larange.
Well, if it's okay with everyone, can I put out a proposition? Maybe I'll leave that to Kevin, just because I'm not sure exactly what way he's going to go and exactly kind of what phrases he's aiming for. You know, if he's just aiming for like, you know, tansekida and stuff like that, or if he's aiming for like an actual monologue that he wants to teach you. But maybe I could jump into something that I found helpful in my learning, and I can show you. Am I able to share my screen?
I don't even know. What do you think, Diane?
Are we able to see that?
Sorry,
Oh, right.
you're a co-host now, Ben, so you can share your screen.
Perfect.
Wait.
Um,
Okay.
so again, I'm just going to start here from the beginning, and if anyone's confused by what I say, please jump in the chat. Let me know, and if I'm going too fast or too slow, just please give me the feedback so I can adjust. I was speaking with someone just 2 days ago, and she had just started, and I was trying to explain to her that for me, I don't really like to memorize set phrases. I would rather learn how to build the phrases up together. And so what I did was I asked her, what are some words you know in Cree? And I'm just going to canvass the crowd here. Does anyone out there know how to say he walks or she walks, he runs, she runs, something like that? Or do we have any verbs like, you know, I cook, something like that? Pimote. Okay, I see someone's got pimote. So I'm going to throw that out here. I'm just going to try and start with words that we're familiar with already.
Somebody wrote
Sitizape.
update. Yeah.
That's perfect. Do we have any others out there? I'd like a list of about 4 or 5 if we have that many. I can also supply some too. A stum. This isn't a verb, but I'll put it up there just so we can talk about it later. I'm going to add it in later. Nista. Okay, that's it's not a verb, but it's a very useful word. Oche, also a good word. We're just going to leave these up on the top line because
There's Wanska.
Waniska, that's a verb. We'll use that one. So when I say verb, I guess I should clarify that too. Verb is just a word that's an action for anyone who's not familiar with that vocabulary. So whenever you say something to somebody else, whatever is happening is the verb. So, you know, if I say I go home, going is the verb. Home is where I end up and I am the person, but going is the verb. So it's the action word. Oh, we've got nipa.
And pasigo.
So that's,
Mitso.
actually, yeah, we'll go so. Okay, let's just start with these 5 words here. Now, the way I learned the Cree language was to kind of take the phrase of when I go to speak, I want to get a message across. And so I have to work from the full message and work my way back. But it's kind of hard to know how to get to the end when you don't know how to get there. So I'm going to attempt to kind of start from the beginning and build us up to the end of a full sentence. So I'm going to build up a little bit of, give me one moment here. I'm going to build a couple of frameworks. And what we're going to do is we're going to drop these verbs into the frameworks. So if I give you, can everybody see this screen all right? Is that clear?
It's good.
If I give you a framework like this, pardon me, Chris?
Good. It's good.
Good. If I give a framework like this where there's a big space and then a W at the end, it literally means put the verb in the big space. So I've got the framework here in the table, and then I'm going to put these verbs right here. Now, any of these verbs, I should actually put the English besides these, just
Yeah, some people wrote that they like the translation.
Absolutely.
Yep. Sweep.
Okay, so if we take any of these verbs and we put them with a W afterwards, what it changes is it changes it into, hang on a second, let me just remember how I did this. we'll go, well, let's skip the table for now. If we add a W, it means that she or he does the action. So that's the equivalent. So what that means is if we take pimote and we add the W after it, we get she or he walks. Okay, so we're gonna skip up for a second here. We're gonna go into one ska. We're gonna add a W, and we're gonna get she or he wakes up. We're gonna take nipa. We're gonna add a W, just like the framework at the top here. All we're doing is adding the W, and it's gonna change it into she or he sleeps. And we're gonna take mich so. We're gonna add the same W, and again, we're gonna get the she or he eats. So what we can deduce from this is basically the W is the part that means she or he, and the mich so is the part that means eats. Now this seems really basic, but we're gonna build on this quite a bit here. The one thing I left up for the end, and the reason I did this is because in language, due to how the mouth works, sometimes when different sounds get added together, it's kind of like they change the result. So in ape, when we add a W, we get an I and a W beside each other, and those actually make the sound of O. So this will actually sound like a po, if you will. But in language, we spell it this way because when we go to read it, this looks the same as all the other times we use a p. For instance, in this one example, if I said nittapin, this means I sit. Or if I said kittapin, that means you sit. So, but we can see that ape remains the same in every word. So we know what that part of the word means, basically. So we've got this, and I'm going to give another framework here now. Actually, let's go over the first verbs first. I'm going to jump back a minute. So when we say pimote, and I've got it defined as walk here, we have in English what's called the imperative tense. And what that means is if you, do you know, whenever you see a dog and you're like, sit, you're commanding the dog to sit. And that's what in grammar or linguistics we call the imperative tense. You're commanding, or you can call it the command tense if that's more helpful. So you're commanding somebody to do it. So if you put an exclamation mark after each of these, that's just how I remember it. These are literally commands if you don't put the W after them. So a lot of people know the phrase "pemich so." It means like come and eat. It's literally, I mean, it doesn't mean command as in like a mean, command. It's just a command as in like you're not suggesting it. You're asking somebody to do it, I guess. Command's a bit of a strong word, but it's also kind of an easy word. So if we look at this, we already know with this one word, we can actually say two different things. We can say walk, as in like go walk. We can also add a W and we can say pimoteo, and that means she or he walks. So we've got two different things here. I'm going to add one more word here. And has anyone seen this word? Just curious. Oh, we got lots of pita guays. That's good too. Yeah, we can add that word in after. But I want to use this word itue for a second. Has anyone heard that word, or itueo? Okay, we got a raised hand. I've never actually seen that before. Forgive me, I'm not that good at Zoom. Perfect.
That's
yes,
so
okay.
good, Ben.
So this literally means say, or I guess we could say it. I'm going to just put that in brackets. You wouldn't hear itue very often in the command form, but it's super common in this form. So if we add the W to it, we get she or he says. Now the reason I want to do this is now let's make a phrase, okay? So I want to say sleep, she or he says. And we actually have the ability to do that now. So if we look here, this means sleep, right? So we're going to add sleep. And then we want she or he says. And so to do that, we're going to go to the second one that has she or she, and we're going to grab this word here. So we're going to take the itue and we're going to add the W. And now we're going to get a full sentence. a short sentence, but a full sentence. And we'll build on this more depending on how much time we have here tonight. But I'm just going to write it out here too. And at the end of this, I can send this file to wherever if we're able to distribute it, so people don't have to be scrambling to keep notes. I always found it easier to pay attention in my lessons and then study later. So if anyone's like me on that one, I can definitely send this. That's no problem. So let's do a few more of these really short sentences. How about Meech so sheer, he says. Or sorry, I just actually gave the answer. Let me give me 1 second here. Let's say eat. Maybe if anyone in the chat can take, or everybody in the chat, can you take a guess at how to say this in Cree? And we'll just give it a few minutes here. So see, just looking at what I did to create this sentence, try and make the same thing, but make this sentence here. And I apologize, I'm kind of skipping out on the capitals here.
Forrest has got it.
Yeah, he's got it. Or she. Meech so. Perfect.
Same with Darla.
Hey, looks like
and
you guys
Julia.
have got this all, guys and gals. So we can move on. So that's pretty good. Oops, I've got that wrong there. Perfect. Okay. Now I want to add, what I'm going to do is tonight I'm going to introduce a whole bunch of different topic or aspects of the language. And I want to, this is going to be kind of an overview. So instead of picking one particular topic in grammar and just hammering out all the different combinations, like instead of teaching you I sit, you sit, he sits, we sit, they sit. I mean, that we can do that too another time. But instead of doing that, I'm going to show you just kind of how things get pieced together. So if we take another framework here, this time we're going to do this. So this is now this is not an exact translation, but what we're going to do is we're going to add this little marker key at the beginning of the phrase. And what that's going to do is mean whatever that person is doing is in the past. So I'm going to give an example here. We're going to go so we've now got she or he ate. And that's just because we added this little key at the front. Okay, so ki meech so she or he ate.
That's a key with a macron at the top.
In the chat box. Yeah, it's a long I, a key. Is that big enough, or should I zoom in a bit more?
No, it's good. I just want to make sure that some places there's no macron, so then it's a different meaning. Perfect.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into the sound stuff tonight.
Okay.
Too much. No, sorry. That's a good point, Christine. I just don't want to get hung up on the phonetics quite yet.
Okay.
Or sorry, the sounds of it quite yet, because that's a whole other ball of wax, basically.
Yeah. And then there's somebody that asked about exceptions. Somebody that asked about exceptions to the framework, the verbs. Does this framework work for all verbs? Val asked.
So this framework in particular will work for all verbs of the type. So now we're okay. Make sure see if I can dive into this without getting too lost on the deep end here. There are a few different kinds of verbs in Cree, and it depends on kind of who is being affected by the action. And without getting, I'm just going to give the abbreviation that you'll find in the dictionary. And so anytime you see in the dictionary this following the entry, like if you were to see something similar like this, himote vai walk, then that verb should be able to be placed in this framework.
Yeah.
So to put in the past tense in Cree doesn't change, Cree word doesn't change. No, it doesn't. Well, I mean, unless you considering appending a prefix of key changing the word, right? There's a hyphen here, so it's technically part of the word. But good question, Nadine. That's yeah. It doesn't. It's not like sit and sat. It doesn't change the innards of the word, if you will. I'm going to put a few more words here in the past tense here. So ki nepal. If you don't mind, something that might be beneficial is if when I'm putting these out, try and guess the translation before I write it. And we'll do one more. Kiwaniscow. Perfect. So now, putting this all together, if we look at this framework here, we could actually expand upon that. And let's say, let's do a translation exercise. Can everybody give a shot at translating that? Whether you write it down or not, just try and piece it together. And I'm going to do a few more here. Oops. Perfect. You guys are everyone's doing awesome. This is so good. Okay. So I'll quickly throw those up there. So we're testing my typing speed here. She or he ate. She said. Oh no, this is just sit. Okay. What else do we want to add in here, Christine?
They're on fire tonight. They're doing really good.
Yeah, this whole group's just killing it. It's awesome. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna intensify things a bit here. I hope everyone's still on board. If this feels overwhelming, please don't be discouraged. We're gonna jump a big hoop here. So we're gonna go to these here. Sorry, these were, actually I can grab them here. We're going to conjugate these. Conjugate means to change a verb to show who's doing the action. So in English, if I take the word go, I conjugate it, I go, you go. But then when I say she or he, we change it to goes. And that's called conjugating the verb. It means to change the action word to show who's doing the action. The problem is in English, there's not very many conjugations. I go, you go, we go, they go. We use the same word in a lot of the cases, right? But it does change when we say she goes or he goes in English. So you can see how the go has changed to goes. Now in Cree, it's the other end of the spectrum. Like it changes for everything. So we're going to start changing these words in another way. Now this is good because a lot of times we're going to see, whoops. We're going to see these words in this other type of conjugation. So I'm going to give another framework here. Whoops. if I can type. And we're going to change these words into this framework. So again, we're just going to take this verb and we're going to plop it in here. And this is going to be a bit tricky. So we're just going to have to accept this for the time being. And then as we progress, we can kind of get into the more specifics of it. But this also means the same thing, okay? Now, sometimes we're going to see in different books, it defined a different way, kind of like sometimes we'll see something like this. That's good to get an idea of what it means. It doesn't directly relate to that tense in English, but it's a good idea to kind of just show a difference between the two. So I'll put it for a couple of them just so we can oops. And if you can either type in the box, that's awesome because we can see everybody's on board, or just do them for yourself. Just So the way we would say this is kind of like a, and then the verb, and then you end it in T. So that E kind of sounds like an A, like as in Canadian A. So the first one would be a pimmoch date. Then we've got, oops, I didn't change it. Sorry about that, guys. A bit. A wanaskat. A nipat. A michsut. And A itwit. And oops.
Anita got it.
Nice. That's awesome. Do we want me to type these all out, or can we postulate what the other ones are?
I think they got it.
Okay, I'll just finish this last one and then we'll move on.
Okay.
As she or he is sleeping. Okay, so what this allows us to do now.
Okay, somebody
Every
wants
time
to
we-
know the pronunciation for Etuit.
Etwait. Etwait. So the
Just
A
like that.
sounds the same throughout the word. Etwait.
Wait.
So now that we've got this new framework, we need to know how to put these in the past. So what we can do here is, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. Let me just, we're going to put this up here. I'm going to try and keep it somewhat organized so that when I give you all this file, if you want it, then it sort of makes some sort of sense. So I'm going to put these back up at the top. Oh, sorry, no, those should be at the bottom. Okay, so we've got this framework, and now I'm going to give this framework. And as we've seen before, the key means in the past, right?
Mm-hmm. When it has a macron at the top.
Yeah, it won't be surrounded like hyphens like this ever without a macron.
Okay.
The only time you'll see it at the front of the word is as a person marker, and
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get to that tonight, but I hope so. So again, now we're going to take this framework and we're just going to take a few of these words because I think we're getting the idea of how to do this. So let's steal these two and we'll put them here. And now we can add the key, and that gives us the meaning of the past. So on the surface, it almost looks exactly like up here, kimich-so, and we could say ekimich-sut. And they almost mean the same thing, but we're going to make a phrase later that I'm going to show you kind of why I wanted to expose everybody to this. So I'm just going to use the second definition, as she or he was eating.
Mm-hmm.
So you notice we've got was eating now. So this is something that's happened in the past because we've got that key was saying. Great. So it's just important to know kind of the order of these things. So this key here comes after the E. So it's kind of gets added in right here. That's just that it's important to know kind of what order, because we don't want to end up with something like that. That wouldn't make any sense necessarily. But let's go on to adding more to our phrases. So I'm going to write out a phrase. You're walking. Oh, awesome. I'm going to write out a phrase, and if you guys, again, if you don't mind trying to throw a translation in the chat, and then maybe I'll give an English phrase eventually, and we'll try and go the other way. But for now, I'm going to give a few Cree phrases. Let's go with and let's go with so can anyone take a crack at trying to decipher those ones? She said it backwards incorrectly. Key A. What would
Anita.
it sound like in a translation? It wouldn't really. If you said key A, just to Julia's question, if you said key A, sorry, key A, it wouldn't really make sense. Yeah,
Okay, and then there's
I
people
wouldn't
that
be able to
got
parse
it,
that anyway.
except for the
Wake up, she says as perfect. Anita's got it. Wake up, she said as she sat. Darla, you're really close, but she said
Darla.
it because it's in the past. So we've got the key there. Just a reminder on that one. Perfect.
Tara also almost.
And so I'm
And
just,
Jordan's got it.
that's,
And Nadine. Nadine and Anita have the second one.
if it's okay with everybody, I'm gonna, instead of doing the she/he thing, I'm gonna make some of them she and some of them he, just because that slash thing, I just keep misspelling it as the truth. But it can mean either one. But sit, they said as they walked. Yeah. So the only problem with the using they as the translation on this one in particular is a lot of times in linguistics, they refers to more than one person. Now, if we're using they as like the non-discriminative he or she, that's totally fine. It's just important that we know what we're trying to say. So if that's the way you're saying, I'm not sure who said that, Turtle Anderson, if that's what you're saying, that's awesome. But if you meant they as in plural people, we just have to be aware that in Cree, we would actually have to change the words. Actually, let's do that next. Let's pluralize these. That would be fun. Okay, so we're gonna take.
Diane, are you good for that?
I don't know how long I have either. You guys can tell
You're
me.
good, you're good,
we,
you're good.
Are we going over time?
No,
Keep going?
you still have 20 minutes.
Lots
Okay,
of time,
yes,
Ben. Lots of time. Lots of great comments in the comments section.
Mhm.
Really helpful.
Okay.
Very.
Oh, turtle meant it as no gender. Perfect. Then you've got it. Yeah. As long as that's clear, like if you take notes to yourself, you just want to make sure, because that can become ambiguous. That's the only thing. I'm just warning you down the road, because in Cree there's two different things there. So anyway, that's awesome. Okay. Awesome. Now let's actually do the plural they in English. That would so I'm going to steal this framework, and here's the best part. Okay, so we've got she or he walks. Now let's just add uck, and now we get they walk. So the framework becomes, instead of adding w, we're adding walk. And it'll probably take me longer to change the English on these, but so now we can say pimote walk, they walk, waniskawak, they wake up. Nipawak, they sleep. I'm gonna have to work on my typing, everybody here. They eat, michsuak, and oh, I don't know how this one didn't get changed. Sorry, I think I have a spelling mistake up here. Yes, I forgot to add the W. Upawak. Remember, this changes to the sound of an O. So I'm actually gonna write a little exception up here. Where's the best place to put this? Maybe here. And it's just gonna be a little star. So when we see an I and a W together, it sounds like O. I hope that's clear enough. We're just gonna put that up at the top as just a general reminder. So, and I'll put a little example here. Uppe plus W equals up O. Sounds like up O.
Not a poop.
Sounds like up O. There. Sorry, you'll have to shout out any questions to me, Christine. I'm having trouble keeping track of the chat.
It looks good. Upawak. Yeah. Notes will be added to the resource section of the website.
Okay.
What is the add to make it walked, slept, woke? That's K-I with a macron at the top. Past tense?
Yeah, the key.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, this is we call this the past tense
That was somebody's
marker.
question.
Okay, perfect.
And then,
So
at
we've
the
got,
very end, we'll take like maybe 10 minutes. That's typically what happens in these sessions, just to kind of go over any questions that have been added to the chat. So don't feel like you got to keep up with it all. We'll pull it back
Okay.
down and try to
Okay.
answer everybody at the end.
Okay.
okay, perfect. All right, well, let's keep charging ahead if everyone's game. So we've got Pamotewak, Winiskawak, Nipawak, Mitsuwak, Upwak, and Itwewak.
Mhm.
And make sure that I catch the English up so I don't send out a poor Word document here. Now, I want to discuss something a little less noticeable in Cree, but something that I wish I had learned much earlier on, and something that's not easily apparent. So we're going to switch gears here for just a second, and I'll show you why I'm doing this after. If we take the word medicine in English, and if we say that to ourselves, which word do we, or which syllable, so I should explain what a syllable is. Medicine has 4 syllables. Me, de, si. No, I guess it has 3. Yeah, sorry, it's got 3. I'll just kind of write down medicine, if you will. I know I'm just kind of changing the spelling here, but bear with me. Actually, I'll put it properly. So we've got 3 syllables. If you say medicine, which syllable has the stress? And this can be a bit jarring at first because we don't really think about stress when we speak. But if we look at it, if I say medicine, does that sound normal to you? Just ask yourself that question. But what if I say medicine? Or what if I say medicine? It's really subtle. So,
Shiva's got it.
medicine or medicine or medicine. Sin. And in thinking about it, my English brain, or from my English perspective, when I first started this, I actually had a really hard time hearing this stress. But when it becomes really apparent is if we use the word medicinal, and I hope I spelled that right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oops. I've got it. Okay, perfect. If I say medicinal, do we notice that it's medicinal? It's 4 syllables now. It's not medicinal, and it's not it's not medicinal, and it's not medicinal. It's medicinal. So it's the third. It's this the third from the end stress, if you will. And if we say medicine, it's the third from the last stress. We don't say medicine or medicine. So this subtle stress, in English, it's all over the place because a lot of the words come in from different languages, and different languages have different stress patterns. And there's a whole branch of linguistics that follows that down. And it's really, really interesting, but not really that applicable to what we're doing here. But the idea of being able to recognize the different stress is very important. So, and I like using medicinal for a reason because it actually follows a lot of the rules in Cree. So if we look at some Cree words, pimote, the stress is actually on the pi, pimote. Waniska. Again, we've got the stress right here. See if I can bold it. I hope that's enough kind of to visualize it here. And so when we add the W and we get pimoteo, the stress is still in the same spot because we have, I'll write it out here. Pimoteo. The stress is still right here.
Mm-hmm.
But when we add on the plural and we get pimotewak, all of a sudden the stress moves to here. And this is an important concept. The reason being, a lot of times when I started out, I would try and say something and someone would say, I don't understand you. I'm sorry, I don't understand you. And honestly, I had the right word. I just didn't have the right stress. So I would say something like pimotewak, and they would, the problem is it's very subtle. So just like you may not know why medicinal sounds wrong, your brain, depending on how often you hear the word, might not actually pick up that it's medicinal, right? You might hear medicinal and you'll be like, I don't know what that is. The problem is stress is really, really important to Cree. And so when we add these changes to the words and the stress moves around, we have to be aware of that. So the rule here for the stress is, I shouldn't say a rule, but a guideline is the third last syllable. Okay, so what that means is, like, for me, count in from the right 3 syllables. And I just find that easier to remember. So for me, when I take a word like pimoteo, I go pimoteo, teo, moteo, pimoteo. So then I know the third one. And so I work my way backwards. So I'm not even sure how I can write that out. 1 second here. Eo, oteo, pimoteo. That's kind of how I would build it up to find the stress. Now that seems pretty easy to do, but if I say like, opa, dang. If I say something like this, I went to see it. Actually, let's just take that out. We'll simplify it. I went to see it at the school. When we look at huge words like this, it starts to become like, oh no, how do I ever say this? So the beginning is literally just sounding out the different parts, like ne, ki, ne, ta, we, wa, pa, din. Oops, sorry, I spelled it in th. We're in Y here, or are we in th? What dialect are we doing, Christine?
You know what? I'm not sure that he clarified that at all.
Oh.
And I was watching that from the beginning. You're good. Just keep going with what you're doing.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep it in Y just because that's kind of like the general teaching dialect. But if
That's what it
anyone's
was.
interested in TH2, I can, yeah, I can give that
Okay,
to them too.
why?
Anyway, so for this one, if I start sounding out ne, ki, ne, ta, we, wa, pa, ten, or kiss, skin, wa, ha, ma, to, we, ka, me, go. Like when we all start out, that's how we do it. You just have to work your way through it. But eventually, kiss, ka, ma, to, we, ga, me, go, right? Now notice, ga, me, go. This is our third last syllable, and I'm actually going to show you, this is our fifth last syllable. So to a lesser extent, we stress this one, but this is the important one. We have to hit that third last syllable. The whole reason I'm showing this is simply just so that when we add the wuck, we remember to change the stress pattern. I'm just going to do this one too, so we have 2 examples. I always like lots of examples. You're double checking all my stuff for errors, right, Christine?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm watching.
Okay, perfect. So again, and if I was trying to find winiskawak, I would start with the last syllable wak, and then I would add the second last syllable skawak, and then I would add niskawak, and then I would add the last
change
one.
That first syllable, Ben. You've got walk squawk.
Oops, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, sorry. This is the last syllable. I'm spelling the word backwards. So this
Okay.
is this part here. So when I go to say it, I say wak, and then I say skawak, and then I say niskawak, and then I add the one niskawak, and that's
Okay.
that's how I find the stress within the word. Because again, we're constantly, like this is a word, and then this is a word, and the stress changes depending on what we add to the end. So I just use this as an example. That's obviously nothing we're covering.
Oh, I was going to say, put a translation on there.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, we can. I'll just leave it in here just for anyone who's interested. I went and saw and looked at it. Something like that. That's pretty close.
Okay. She wants to know, Bev, if this is a hard, fast rule.
Okay, so there are about 4 words I know of that don't follow it. And the only other time it doesn't happen is if you have, let's, yeah, hang on a second. Let's add, if you have a word that's less than 3 syllables, then the stress goes on the last syllable. I'm not going to say this is a hard and fast rule. I'm going to say as a learner, this is going to get you up to speed pretty good. Let's say 70%, that's probably on the low side. It's probably closer to 90, but let's say 70% of the time. So that's, I don't know, that's pretty good for me. I mean, something that falls at 70% of the time, that's a pass, you know? I mean, that's more than a pass. That's a B, I think. I don't know, I've been in school for a long time, but I'm pretty sure that's okay. So if we take a word like kona, okay, this means snow, just literally like snow, the thing, the noun, like I'm holding snow, that sort of snow. Then we would say it kona, kona, not kona, kona. So we would say it like that. One more, mi, oops. I don't know, what's another 2-syllable word? We can say mita or egua. That's one we hear all the time. I'm going to leave this transcription out because it's a word like, two in English. It means a million different things. But again, we say egua, egua. We don't say egua. So
Minos.
Minos, yeah.
Darla
Is it a short
Minos.
I?
Yeah.
Minos, like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this means cat. And again, I'm impressed actually, Christine. That's a Y dialect word. You're
It was Darla
changing
who put it
your
in the
ways.
chat box. I'm just trying to support what's going on.
Oh.
Okay, pussies.
Yeah, exactly. I can't actually do a capital letter with an O here, unfortunately, because I've changed my keyboard. So.
Okay.
Oh, that's another thing, actually. If people here are interested in writing an SRO,
tell them what
something I highly
SRO is
recommend.
then.
Sure, yeah. All these words I'm writing in are called SRO. It's the orthography that I'm using to write it in. And the reason I personally really like SRO is because, again, as I mentioned, I live far away from anybody speaking. So I depend a lot on resources like dictionaries and things. And if I spell it this way, and the next guy spells it, I don't know, something like that, but we mean the same word. I can't look the second word up. I can only look this word up because it's following a kind of a series of rules, if you will. So that's why I always use that. And if anyone's interested in that, at this point, nobody's writing in capital letters in SRO. So that's why I can't change this O big, because I've actually changed my keyboard. But anyway, that's a long-winded
You have another
explanation.
suggestion for Wapus?
Wapus, yeah, that's a good one.
From Ken.
Thanks, Ken. So we've got Wapus. So again, that's just the stress pattern here we're looking at, right? So these only have 2 syllables, kona, egua, minos, wapus. But then when we get into 3 syllables, all of a sudden, instead of stressing the last one, we go back to the third last one. So we get pimoteo. And then when we have 4, it becomes pimotewak, waniskao, waniskawak. Okay, the only 2 words that don't follow these will be, of course, the exceptions of the words that everybody knows, right? Michso, most times people won't pronounce it Michisuak, but they'll pronounce it Michsuak. So there are speakers that pronounce it Michisuak, so it's not unheard of, but it's also a word that everybody learns. So that might be the reason why this is. There's like only 2 words I can think of that don't follow this rule. I'm going to lightly put a cross through here. And then the other one is pimpata, also another word we know, right? To run. I guess I should probably put the English. Well, we have the English up top.
Have it up there, yeah.
Yeah, if we need to refer to it. Perfect. So we've got, so this, it should almost be pimipatao, but we say pimpatao. So it, just because of the word, we would think it'd be pimipatao, but for some reason, that word isn't accepted in the language generally. So for this one exception, we say it pimpatao. Okay, that's enough about stress. I think that's it's kind of one of those things we have to work at. And again, when you get big words like this, my trick is to break it back down, going from the right. So oak, gok, migok, gumigok, and I force that stress on that third last syllable. Wigumigok, towigumigok, atowigumigok, matowigumigok, hamatowigumigok, wahamatowigumigok, kinwahamatowigumigok, kiskinwamatowigumigok. So you can see how I slowly build my way back. But by doing that, I was able to kind of single out that stress. And that's, it sounds really bizarre because again, stress, we don't really think about in English, but it's super important in Cree. We'll see that right away when we start speaking. It's probably one of the number one things a person can pick out, kind of that'll jump you to the next level, if you will. So anyway, enough of that. Let's build a few more phrases here. Or are we out of time?
We're getting close.
when
Do
do we go
you
till?
want to answer any questions, Diane, or do you want him just to keep rolling?
Well, you know what? I'm going to leave that up to you guys. Normally, we've said that the lessons are 7 to 8, but Kevin has been really generous with his time and has been kind of giving us an extra 10 to 15 for questions after. So can I leave that up to you guys? And if you do want to cut out right at 8, let's go right to questions.
What do you think, Ben?
Why don't
5
we-
more minutes?
Let's do 5 more minutes. We'll go till 8 and then we'll do questions for about 10. And then I got to get up for
Okay.
work tomorrow at 3 a.m. So I'm going to have to go. But
Oh, me.
okay, let's build a
Good
phrase
go.
with plural people and singular people. So I'm going to give some more Cree phrases again. We're going to throw a challenge out there for everybody to try and transcribe or translate a few more.
You transcribing fool?
No, transcribe is not the right word. I've just been doing too much of that lately.
I know. I know.
And then we'll do, I'm going to throw in something I haven't shown, and we'll see if, don't be alarmed if you can't get this. I haven't showed you this. But try and take a guess at what it means. I'll give you Namoya means no or not or didn't, something like that. So see if you can put the phrase together. I'm just throwing a little bit of a, I don't know, extra challenge here.
Nathan's got it. And Anita.
Where are the words we're using?
Where did you go? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, look, walk. How about this? There. I think that should be good enough. There's always that fine balance about being excited and showing more and more things and then doing too much, right? So I'm at war with myself on that one. I'd love to sit here, show you guys everything I can, but we better better stop somewhere. But we've got full sentence here. This is here. That's the main thing. So we don't have to be scared of sentences anymore. Okay, so they slept.
Nita and Nathan.
They said as she eats. So I'm gonna, looks like a lot of people have taken a try at that, and that is awesome. I'm gonna throw these, instead of just letting you guys watch me read the comments here, I'm gonna just translate them and you guys can double check if yours match. Oh, I got too greedy with my tabs here.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that, everybody.
Good. Good.
Sit. Yeah, this last one sounds a bit weird in English, so I'm gonna switch it around just so the English makes a little bit more sense. But it's perfectly fine to say that way in Cree. You could also say "Moi kito wa kape na nipa." You could say that too. Maybe I better I'll switch it around just so it matches.
Yeah, Bev wants to know, could it be both he or she?
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, I just yeah, we can add that back in. I just always mess up when I try and write s/he. So I usually just pick one and then I do the other and the next one and I try and alternate examples. But yeah, that's totally fine. It definitely, as perfect. So yeah, we've got some great sentences here and we've got some other ones. You can kind of see my process is just, you just have to learn, for me, sorry, I learn one aspect of the grammar and then I try and figure out how to apply it. And then I learn the next aspect of grammar and then I try and learn how to apply it. And eventually, yeah, eventually we can make sentences and let's see. Here's an example. I was writing a little, I never thought I'd be able to do this when I started, but I was writing a little, a friend of mine and I are writing a story. This is in TH dialect, but again, eventually just by adding these little things together, we can make full paragraphs and start writing stories, right? So I hope that's inspiring. Don't be overwhelmed by it. It's a language is a journey and it's super fun. There's lots that can be gained from sticking in there and learning it and lots that we can learn just from all the different aspects of it. So, okay, Chris, take it away.
You're an inspiration, Ben. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing. You teach me so much all the time and I really appreciate your motivation and motivating me. So there was some questions. You've got lots of appreciation and a lot of thank yous. If you can read that. Diane, did you see a question that I missed?
I'm actually just going through it and I think all the questions along the way have been answered, but please, anybody out there, if there are some questions that we didn't get to, then now's a good.
How long have you been learning, Ben?
That's a very good question. I took a Cree class. I took Cree 10 in high school. And I'll just give you a bit more than you probably asked for this in this question, but I started it and I loved it. I thought it was so much fun.
Yeah.
But Cree 20 wasn't written yet. And so I basically came out of that class flying high and then I just crashed. There was nowhere to go. And I kind of mentioned earlier about SRO and the need for kind of spelling things right. At that time, there was nothing. There was nothing that was uniform. And I remember going to the library as a teenager being like, I can mash my head through this. I'll figure this out. And I crashed and burned. It wasn't until many years later. So many years later, fast forward, I decided I wanted to take another language. I started in French, dabbled enough and kind of learned some study techniques. Then I kind of dabbled in Spanish too, learned some more study techniques. And then I came full circle back to Cree. I really wanted to learn Cree. And so I tried to apply some of that, and some of it transferred and some of it didn't. So I guess if you take that all into account, like the break of 4 or 5 years here and 4 or 5 years there, I've been doing it since I was a teenager, but I guess I've been really focused probably the last 8 or 9 years. Again, I had to take some time off to do different projects in life, but whenever I can, there's more and more material now too. I'm not sure, like,
There is.
not to advertise one book or another, but there's lots of these kind of books that are actually written in Cree, and in that same orthography that I was mentioning. So, you know, when I'm reading this, I can see a word and be like, oh, I'm going to go look that up. So the resources have blossomed a lot in the last 5 years even, so that a learner can actually go at it about on their own. So, yeah.
Hey, Ben, there is a question on how to change your keyboard to SRO that we missed. And also, oh, shoot. Yeah, that was after the thing that you explained.
Sure. The keyboard one, how do I get into this? It kind of depends on what system you're using. You know, whether it's Windows or Mac. There's a few articles out there, I'm pretty sure, if you Google. A trick that I've learned, if people are having trouble and they want to write SRO, you can use either a French keyboard, and
Or
you can
Maori.
use circumflexes, which will look, pardon me?
Maori.
Maori. Okay, I didn't even know there was a keyboard for Maori, but what I mean by using a French keyboard is it's usually very easy to set up. It's usually there, and that'll give you these circumflexes, like these little hats here that I've got written. If you want these macrons, like the flat line, like I'm using, I've been using the Latvian keyboard of all things. I guess Latvian. I don't know anything about that language, but apparently it uses macrons. I searched that in Wikipedia, so I just changed my keyboard to Latvian. The only thing that changed was I hold Alt and the letter, and I get the letter now. So that's kind of a brush over that question, but again, it's kind of that question kind of branches out depending on what system is being used. If you're using an iPhone or an Android device like a phone, normally you just push down on the letter and hold it, and it'll bring up a menu of all the different versions of the letter, and then you drag your finger over it too. So on my iPhone, I push A, I hold it, it brings up the menu, I slide my finger over to the A with the line on it, and that will give me, you know, a long A.
Okay, somebody wants to know where you're teaching.
I don't actually teach. I
You're so
drive heavy
deadly,
machinery
though.
for a living. So
You should. Do you know any good SRO short stories or storybook resources? And there was one.
Yeah, so we've got that's one thing I'd love to fix if I ever get around to it. We've got a lot of basic beginner material. We can get some short story books from SICC. I know at FNUC, the First Nations University, they've published some. Do you have those on you, Chris? You have a copy.
Yes, I do.
She'll go grab them there. So we've got a lot of basic stories, like children's book stories, kind of.
Ninoti with Dotson. These are in TH dialect, though.
Yeah, they've published them in all 3 dialects, though.
This is the where is it? Right there.
Here, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so that your stuff can go. Oh, I better save this before.
And then
I'm
maybe
gonna stop sharing my screen so that your thing can go big and they can see it.
what we'll do too is after I can collect all the resources too, because each lesson, each week, we collect all the resources and they go into a shared drive. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so these aren't very long at all.
But they have kind of some of that basic phrasing, so that's a good resource.
Let's say it first.
Perfect. There is another, and I'll send the link. There's a set of texts that was produced called the Sacred Stories of the Sweetgrass Cree, and also Plains Cree texts. Now those were collected in 1929, but there's an SRO version out there that I can let you know where that's at. Chris has got a really good book there for anyone who doesn't have Solomon Rat's Machi Neheoilin. that is an awesome, it's a workbook. It kind of, fill in the blanks, and it's got a lot of exercises and things. And he kind of goes into a lot more of the grammatical details. I'm kind of showing you how to apply the rule, but I didn't really talk about all the grammatical language around it, which is useful if you want to dive more into it by yourself. I found it super useful to kind of know that language, if you will, so that I can kind of understand what they're talking about in the linguistics text. And there's also a pile of books by the name Frida Hennecke and Hans Christoph Wolfhard is his last name. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on his first name right now. Hans is his first name, but Wolfhard. He and Frida transcribed a lot of elders' stories. I've also published a few videos on YouTube that I transcribed. They are in TH dialect, but they're on YouTube. You can watch the speaker tell the story, and the subtitles are at the bottom. So I can send a link to that later.
Ben, you have a question. If somebody wants to know, is it okay if they don't use the accents? I assume they mean the macrons. Is that bad to do? I've been trying to chat with my cousin, and he's understands what I'm saying, but I don't want to be rude. That's from Heidi.
I mean, language is just about communicating. So if they understand, that's totally.
And what are good study techniques to learn quickly?
I was just going to expand on that 1 second. I'll just show you. The reason we mark the length within the SRO system is because these two words, the only difference is this A right here, but they are actually two different words. So as long as whoever you're speaking to understands you, that's probably okay. But if you were to write a book and wanted people to read it, they're not going to necessarily know what you mean. So this is like a nail, as in like a hammer and nail. And this is a lake. So Sagahigan and Sagahigan, they're two totally different words. So that's why we use those length markings. And it's again too, like
Right.
if you use syllabics and you see the dots on the top, those are doing the same thing. They're marking this length.
Okay, and somebody else did their homework from last lesson, and they want to make sure their pronunciation is right for Regina and for Saskatchewan.
Okay, Regina is probably the words Uskanaka Sastege. Is that what you guys use?
Yeah.
And Saskatchewan has gone by a few different names depending on kind of region and speaker. I've heard Kisaskatchewanik quite a bit, or Kisaskatchewan, depending if you're talking about at Saskatchewan or just the place.
Could you type those down for her, please? She needs to see
Sure.
where the macrons go, because when she wrote it in the chat, she didn't put the macrons in.
Sure.
I think that's it.
Uskanaka Asastege. This is Regina, or actually, literally, it is bones that are piled. This is the part here that means piled. This is we'll ignore that for now. And this is the part that means bones. And the A at the end is kind of the S of bones. So Oskan is bone, Oskana is bones. Ka is kind of like the that. It's kind of, we'll just use that for now. And then asasteo is to be piled, and asastege is they are piled.
And
So
then
that's
Saskatchewan,
that one.
and then that's it. You're out of time.
So this is the word Kisaskatchewanik, not Kisaskatch. Kisaskatchewanik is the word I use for Saskatchewan. I'm not sure if that, again, if you have a different word, that doesn't mean it's wrong. This word, it's not like in English where you just have one word for a location. Lots of different regions, lots of different dialects. People use different words for different things. Kisaskatchewan, literally, Chewan is a current and Kisaska is quick. So, well, I will use this to mean Saskatchewan. It kind of literally means fast flowing river or fast flowing current. That's obviously in reference to, sorry, it's trying to type and talk at the same time.
Anita
That's
wants
obviously
to
in
know
reference to the river.
where the notes are going to be posted, Diane? Are they going to be on the High Prairie website?
They are, Christine. Everything from all the resources in the chat get put into the resources section. If you go to the very bottom below all the videos, you're going to see a collection of all of the resources.
Okay. And somebody wants to know where the stress is in Tanse. That's Raylene.
Okay, that's actually a really interesting question. I'm glad somebody asked that. So when I write an SRO, I write tanese, right? And the reason I do that, actually everyone here will now understand, is because it has 3 syllables, tan-e-se. And we know that the third last syllable is the one we stress. So we say tanse, tanse. And just as a side note, oftentimes we'll see it written like this, and that's fine if we know what word it is. And that's actually, this was a method of writing something that's trying to show people where the stress is, although the stress is always the third last in SRO for the most part. The only issue is if we read this word in SRO, it's only 2 syllables, right? Tan and se. So then we would read it like this. So that's why this I, even though tanse, you can't really hear that I, that's why that I is there, just to remind us that the stress is actually here. The short I is kind of one of those letters that's used often to, it doesn't really make a sound, but it's used to make sure that stress is in the right place. The other reason it's written like this is actually tanse is 2 different parts of the word. Tan, one second. Tan, I'll write this on my line. Tan means kind of like question, or yeah, we'll say question. And isse is kind of like, if you remember Old English, the word thus. So when we use tanse, it's kind of like thus, how is it thus? You know, and we often translate it to how, because that's just a lot easier, you know, because we don't really use the word thus. But if we understand this, then we understand why it's spelt this way, because we've got isse and we've got tan, so we just put them together, we get tanse. And then, and since we keep the shape, we know which part of the word it is. We call those little parts morphemes. But if we know which one it is, and it also allows us to, if we don't know the word, to figure it out, because there's this word here, ite, this means a place. Oops, again, I can't type. And if we add tan in front of it, we get where. But if we look at that literally, is like question place.
And Mel and Rose want to know if you were referencing Jean Ogamasis and Eric Wolvengray.
Yeah, I did earlier tonight. Jean's book, when I mentioned chapter 28 of The Indefinite Actor, that when I said Jean's book, I'm talking about Jean's green book. I definitely, there's a list of a few academic authors I would highly recommend. Jean for sure, Eric for sure, Wolfart, Henneque. There's lots. Just I'm on the spot here and I'm not thinking of them, but
and I want to acknowledge. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I want to acknowledge Solomon, as well as Candace is on in the group tonight too. And Candace is also a graduate from the Indigenous Language Certificate from the U of S that Kevin teaches.
Oh, awesome.
And
yeah, that's an awesome achievement.
Everybody's waiting for files, Diane, so they'll be loaded up after we're all done, right? They're not going to be there right now.
This recording usually takes a little bit of time to render down so that I can put it into a YouTube. But you'll see it there probably by tomorrow, 10 a.m.-ish, along with all the new resources.
Thanks so much, Ben. You're just so deadly. I love you.
Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, it's been great. I just noticed, I hope I'm saying this right, a Xavier's link here to that how to spell it in Cree, or I think that's what it's called. That book is on Cree Literacy Network. It's by Jean and Eric as well. I think it's called How to Spell It in Cree. Pretty sure that's how it's, and it is a fabulous book. It has a whole chapter on this stress, actually. That's the book that taught me this whole thing. So highly recommend that book. It talks about why things are the way they are in the SRO thing. And it also teaches kind of some basic vocabulary. Sorry, I just saw that and I wanted to make sure that got a little bit of screen time, because it isn't a great book.
Ben and
Hey,
Christine,
I had a quick question. I heard you guys say that you guys uploaded on YouTube. Where can I find that on? Do I just type in online Cree language?
The videos that I made, or is that what you're referring
Correct.
to?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just give me one moment here, I will find them for you. Do we have, oh, we're almost done. Give me 2 seconds here and I will.
It's bedtime.
It's bedtime for Ben. Yeah.
Ben and Christine, do you guys mind staying on like after just for 2 seconds and I can collect any of that? I'll stick it in the chat. We keep the chat, then we review the chat and extract all the resources.
Yeah.
Upload onto the web. Okay, perfect.
That's what I sent you,
Sure.
Ben.
Yeah. I just have to get to my channel to, why don't I do that? I'll give that link to Diane and she'll post it for those
Yay.
videos. And that way I don't have to keep you guys on the line. I just have to find it here.
Now, I thank you all for coming in tonight and bearing with us instead of Kevin. I'm expecting him to walk through the door any minute.
He's been
Yeah.
texting saying, how's it going? And I'm like, great. It's going
Awesome.
great.
We'll
What?
see you
Thank you
guys
all
next
for
week.
sitting through that.
Yeah, and we'll see you
Amazing.
next week again.
I can't wait to take this document you're working on, Ben, and just, it was hard. It's hard as you're kind of trying to moderate and keep up with everything, but man, so many things just had these light bulb moments for me, like, oh my goodness, like those rules. Like I love the rules sometimes around the language. It just helps
the
me.
grammar.
Lots of just light bulb moments tonight. I thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you had those. That's what keeps me going a lot of times, right? It's a small community of us learners, but I hope we can grow it. That would be awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you
Okay,
all.
well,
for
good night, everybody.
joining.
Hey, good night, everybody.
We'll keep you on the line for just a moment and everybody- yes. Thank you all. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Everybody.
Oh, can I get the YouTube channel?
We're gonna post it
Yeah,
after.
can you see my screen still? I'll write it here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I for some reason my laptop was messing up, so I joined by phone.
Okay. I'll just
No, he
post it in the
doesn't see
chat
it.
really quick.
Ben, he won't see it.
Yeah,
if
no,
you
I'm gonna
type it.
can you get to the chat? My username is Lingua Enthusiast. So if you look at those videos, you should be able, if you search Solomon Rat or Ben Godden on YouTube, they'll also come up. And then you can follow my channel there. I've got 3 or 4 playlists.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yay.
Excellent. And Val, if you're still on, I was typing a message, but I'm just going to say it to you. If you go to the High Prairie School Division's homepage, so just hpsd.ca homepage, you're going to see an image of Kevin Lewis. That's where we're housing all of the resources. So if you click on that, you're going to also be able to see at the very bottom of the video. So there'll be 4 videos at the very bottom. You're going to see a resource gallery, and that's got all of the resources we've collected. So that's where it is, in case anybody was unable to find it on the website. All right. You have to get up at 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's all good.
and it's 9:30 there. We're sitting at 8:30.
No, it's earlier. No, it's 8:30 here. Yeah. So
Yeah.
no big deal.
Yeah.
Call it quits here shortly.
Goodness.
Can I send you these links? Should I just include them on the document? Is that the easiest way to get them to you?
That would be that's a good way to do it, Ben. Yeah. And then
Okay.
What we do is just, we kind of break them into certain sections. We've got some music resources, and then we've also got just some text resources, and just people are amazing at sharing so much. Oh, I'm going to quit.
There's so much out.
Stop the recording.